Good morning. Just making this video about Hermann Hesse's Strange News from Another Planet, which is the latest book that I just finished. I read all these stories in a day, which is not to say I read them in a day because they're so good and cool and compelling, but rather because I was on a train for 6 hours and I didn't have anything else to do. So we just got to work and read them all. I was very excited when I picked this book up because I am, it should be said at the outset here, a Hermann Hesse fan. I've read not all of his work, especially not the longer work. I haven't read Glass Bead Game, for example, which I know a lot of people think is him at his best. But I've read Siddhartha, Journey to the East, Demian, Gertrude, and I recommend those books all the time. Journey to the East, a little less so. I think it's not his greatest work because the characters are way less compelling than in Gertrude or Demian. But I love his shorter novels a lot, and Demian's one of my most reread books. And Siddhartha is probably one of my most successful book recommendations ever. I think a lot of people should read him, especially a lot of young people should read him. He's influential in a lot of ways on the way I think about the world. So I was very excited when I saw this. And the title, Strange News from Another Planet, I was like, oh my god, Hermann Hesse is maybe writing a little sci-fi. Some sci-fi short stories. And it is for sure not that, unfortunately, which I was very sad to learn. But they are honestly pretty similar in tone and intent of his novels. There are 6 stories in here, and it is 120 pages. So the stories are a little long. But they read like Aesop fables if Aesop's fables weren't cute and fun and interesting and short. Which is to say, these are tales of morality and ways of being in the world that Hesse thinks are best. It is really didactic and prescriptive. It is, here's what you're doing that is bad. Here's what you should be doing instead. And some people love that stuff. And it would serve as a very concrete example of how Hesse thought about the world. So in that regard, it could be interesting for you to read. I would make the argument that you could get all of that information of how he thinks about the world and what he believes is important, what he believes is dangerous and not good for you, from his short novels. This is 120 pages. I don't actually know how many pages Gertrude or Demian or Siddhartha are, but I know Journey to the East is less than this, probably. So I would just recommend, if you're thinking about picking up any Hermann Hesse, to pick up one of those 4 before you ever pick this up. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It just reminded me of, and this is going to be a bad comp, but because they're polar opposite people and believe polar opposite things, but it reminded me of reading Ayn Rand's work, where it's such a thinly veiled attempt at a novel when really what it is a work of philosophy, and you just want to tell people who don't read philosophy how good and cool your philosophy is. So you write a book about it. Granted, this is 8-page, 20-page short stories and not, a monstrosity 1,200-page Atlas Shrugged. But it's still the same intent, right? They're stories that serve a larger purpose. And I'm not saying most stories don't do that, but it's very obvious here, where we're not very plot-driven, but the stories are very ideas-driven. And he's got some beautiful ideas. He thinks really his worldview is appealing, and it is nice, and it is peace oriented and contentment of your soul and childlike wonder. But it's just not that fun to read, which is sad. I think this is maybe the first video I'm making where I'm not pretty amped up about a book, but rather just doing a pretty honest book review. I just don't know what these stories, what their purpose is. I thought initially, oh, this is good if you don't know anything about Hesse. You could get a little introduction into Hesse. But then I was, like, why would you read this and not just one of his books instead? So I don't know who this is for. I read it as a fan and didn't love it. So I don't know if somebody reads it as not a fan, what they're going to think. Probably not that much better, though. But I don't know. So yeah, here's my review of Strange News from Another Planet. It isn't sci-fi. It isn't Hesse's best work. It could be worth reading if you like Hesse and you super like his philosophy. But I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it, unfortunately. Go read Damien. Go read Gertrude. Go read Siddhartha. Go read Journey to the East. They'll serve you much better. Thanks for watching.